to our pollinator gardening workshop. My name is Carly and I work with Links for Greener Learning. Today we will be talking about why pollinators are important to our gardens, and then we will be going over an activity about how to plant some wildflower seeds and hopefully start a pollinator garden either at home or at school. So why are pollinators important? Well, flowers cannot exist without the help of our pollinator friends. In order to reproduce, flowers need to spread their pollen between plants. This enables plants to produce offspring for continuing generations. Pollen. What is pollen? Pollen is the yellow powdery substance that you find on the male part of a flower, which is called the anther. And if you check out your handout, there will be a little diagram of this part of the flower on there. Pollen is necessary for female flowers to become fertilized and reproduce. This transfer of the pollen between the female flower and the male flower is called pollination. And this is the first step in the process of flower reproduction, where it produces fruit and seed and continues to produce further generations of plants. Pollination can occur in a variety of ways. It can either be transferred on the animals or the insects that feed on the plants. They feed on the nectar of the flower and it gets carried on their bodies, or the pollen can be transferred by the wind, so the wind will just carry it between plants. These creatures that transfer the pollen from flower to flower are called pollinators. Pollinators include things like bees, birds, bats, beetles, wasps, or moths. And they are essential to our gardens and landscapes. They help us grow food and flowers and help our wildflowers thrive. The plants that these pollinators help us grow provide a wide array of different essential uses. So the plants help to clean the air. They produce breathable oxygen by using the carbon dioxide produced by the plants and animals as they respire. They also purify our water. They prevent erosion through the roots that hold the soil in place. And the foliage of the plants also buffer the rainwater from hitting the surface of the soil. The plants that they help us grow also provide us with all of the food that we eat. Essentially, all of the fruits and vegetables that we grow, they all need to be pollinated. Their flowers need to be pollinated as well. Unfortunately, pollinator populations are becoming threatened. With the rise of urban spaces and urban environments, buildings, houses, a lot of the natural areas where these pollinators would normally thrive are disappearing. These are the spaces where they nest and feed. And as we build more, as we develop our cities, a lot of these green spaces are just disappearing. Pollution, the misuse of chemicals, and climate change are also reasons why the population of the pollinators are diminishing. And so it's a crucial moment in time to protect these pollinators for the ecological survival of our planet. And this is also why it's important to create pollinators in our own backyards, in our schoolyards, in our green spaces that we have left. We need to recreate the nesting and the feeding habitats that they need to live. So there are some ways that we can attract more pollinators to our backyards. So one is to keep our yards messy. We can keep piles of dead twigs or branches or brush. We have some leaves here. Some insects like to nest and create homes in the piles of leaves. Things like bees, they like to live and nest in anything that has a hollow stem. Like this one here. So some plants will naturally have a hollowed out stem in the center there, and a lot of different insects make their homes in there. So it's good to leave those in our landscapes. We have these little bee hotels, which is kind of trying to mimic the natural hollowed out plants by creating, again, little spaces for insects to create their homes and live. Another way is to let our vegetables go to flower. Instead of harvesting them for food, we can let some of them go to flower, and then the insects and the birds come and feed on the flowers. We can also leave sitting pools of water, either if it's on a nice rock surface, or if we have a muddy patch in our backyard. The insects need a space to drink water. Just like we drink water, they need a little bit of water too. We can fill our yards with flowers. So we like to plant a variety of native wildflowers for them to feed on. Our lawns, they also contain a lot of native wildflowers. They might be seen as weeds, but the flowers are also a food source for the insects that we have living in our area. Right now we have these little bluets coming in through the soil here, and those are definitely a good source of food for the pollinators. And lastly, we can go organic. We can grow our fruits and vegetables and plants without any use of chemicals, because the chemicals, when the insects land on the plants, the chemicals will damage and sometimes kill them as well. So we want to avoid the use of herbicides, pesticides, and try to buy pesticide-free plants from the garden centers. Here at the gardens, we grow everything organic. We don't use any chemicals or herbicides. We use a more natural means of controlling our pests and our insects by either hand picking them off or using safe products like a natural dish soap or an essential oil. There's many different ways to protect your plants from the pests that don't include any toxic chemicals. Way of why pollinators are important to our landscapes, and some different ways that we can start to incorporate ways that we can attract more pollinators to our gardens.